Welcome back to Rolife Flowery Sweets and Teas miniature set. This is video 6 in the series. In today's video, I will be creating the welcome sign, the book and crate, metal hook and candle, and wicker basket and flowers. I am starting with assembling the crate. First, I locate the different pieces, cut them out, and glue them together. Now that the crate is completed, I am moving on to assembly of the book. I first locate the 2 paper pieces that create the book and cut them out. It took me a couple tries to realize how the folding of the book was supposed to be assembled. The internal pages of the book fold accordion style, and then the cover of the book wraps around and glues to the internal pages. The last part of assembly is to cut and then glue on a label to the front of the crate. Next, I am starting to assemble the metal hooks. This is one of the most simple assembly pieces, as the piece of wood is already cut, and then you cut 2 tiny pieces of metal, curve them like hooks, and flatten them and attach them to the piece of wood. Now that the wooden hooks are assembled, I am moving on to assembly of the welcome sign. This sign is a little more complex than some of the other signs in the set, as it comes with 3 main pieces that are attached by 4 small pieces of metal wire. And even though it's a more complex sign, so it takes much more time to assemble, it's this level of complexity and challenge that I really enjoyed about this kit. It really added this incredible amount of detail and thought into every piece, and I think this is actually a great example of one of those really highly detailed pieces that they really could have made a lot more simple, but they chose to make it more complex, and I think that just gives it a much more unique look, and it makes it a more dynamic piece to look at overall. So just like most of these items I'm assembling, I start by locating the different pieces and cutting them out. I then cut the small pieces of wire. You'll notice that these wires are encased in a black tubing. So once I start to bend the wire, I will also strip off that black tubing. In here, I locate the sides of the sign in paper. You'll notice there's 2 different signs in the paper because one goes on each side of the sign. And now I'm gluing on the paper sides of the sign to the oval backing of the sign. The metal hooks will go through the pieces of the sign, and here you'll notice there's little white circles on the paper parts of the sign that are far too small to be cut with scissors. They're only about 1 millimeter thick in diameter. So I was able to use these small metal wire to poke through. That way the wire hooks can easily go through the different parts of the sign. Here, I am starting to strip the black coating off of the metal wire. And all that's left is time for me to assemble the signs by using the small wire hooks. Now that assembly of the welcome sign is complete, I am moving on to assembling the candle. The candle is another very simple item to assemble. The main part is this long strip of paper that I am going to roll up around the small piece of black tubing, which will be the wick, and the long strip of paper will be the wax part of the candle. Here I just glued the wick in, and I'm gluing the end of the candle, and that's it. The last item I am assembling is the wicker basket filled with flowers. Here I am cutting out the paper pieces of the basket, which will kind of make the base to wrap the wicker around. Next, I'm cutting this green sheet of paper, which will make the grass and kind of foliage to wrap around the flowers. To assemble the flowers, I take these 2 pieces of strings with the flowers on the end and fold them in half. I then add some glue and I roll them in the green paper, which acts like the foliage around the flowers. Here I start to glue and assemble the pieces of the basket made out of paper. Next, I am assembling the wicker that wraps around the basket so it looks like a wicker basket. The piece of wicker is already assembled. It's kind of like a piece of ribbon, so it's very easy to wrap around the basket, and then it looks like a complete basket. And then I cut this tiny piece of kind of twisted grass, and that makes the basket handle. And here is a final look at all of the items I created today. The crate with the book, the welcome sign, the metal hooks, candle, wicker basket, and flowers. If you enjoy this video or are making a miniature set yourself, I encourage you to follow along as I post videos that cover every step of making this miniature set.